Well, today I'm going to show you exactly who's got the beef.
You've heard of the Cola Wars, the Burger Wars, and even the Chicken Sandwich Wars. Now get ready for the Battle of the Beef. It's Texas Roadhouse versus LongHorn Steakhouse. Who's winning? Who's keeping secrets? Who's got more pros than cons? Well, let's get cooking and find out.
Beef fight! Beef fight!
Out-of-state steak.
Never thought I'd have to drive across state lines.
In America, a pair of well-known steakhouses are duking it out for steak supremacy, and it's time to settle the heavyweight title bout of beef once and for all. Authenticity between the two is an immediate question mark, however, since both Texas Roadhouse and LongHorn Steakhouse offer Southern flair and lovely Lone Star State decor, but neither one of them can lay claim to doing an original Texas two-step.
I'm from Texas.
Despite being named after the Texas Longhorn breed of cattle, LongHorn Steakhouse was actually founded in Atlanta, Georgia in the summer of 1981. Today, their headquarters hangs its cowboy hat in Louisville, Kentucky. A decade and a half after the founding of LongHorn, Texas Roadhouse, which literally has Texas in its name, actually opened its first location in the Midwest in Clarksville, Indiana in 1993. Today, Texas Roadhouse is headquartered in Orlando, Florida. Despite their outside roots, both chains are laying claim to doing Texas-style food as authentically as possible, and the parallels are pretty staggering. It's a side-by-side Wild West showdown at the OK Corral, where the town ain't big enough for two outlaws, or their high-end cuts of steak.
Two worlds colliding, only one survives.
It's sweet as honey at Texas Roadhouse.
You are so sweet, honey.
Before we decide on the main course meals, we have to start at the beginning. And at any proper steakhouse, that means with complimentary bread. The tradition of offering free bread at restaurants has a few theories behind its origins, but for many establishments, it's a simple welcoming gesture of breaking bread with friends and neighbors. And this is no exception at Texas Roadhouse. Despite the company's Midwestern founding, more than 10% of all locations are found inside Texas state lines, which means they pack that classically warm Southern hospitality and that classically warm pre-dinner bread roll,
where you're basically just showing off your Southern charm.
There are more than 600 Texas Roadhouse locations across the country, and every table is served a basket of freshly baked rolls and a side of honey cinnamon butter that has to be tasted to be believed. The mini loaves are baked fresh throughout the day at 5-minute intervals, so you'll never be starting your dinner with a stale one. The addition of honey cinnamon butter is unique to Texas Roadhouse, and a welcome change from the classic rock-hard, cold-from-the-fridge, unspreadable butter in the pre-sealed single-serving plastic containers you'll get at some other establishments. But because this is a Western-style standoff, we need to see how that sweetly savory honey cinnamon spread stands up to the opponents on the other side.
Your bread is butter!
Breaking bread at LongHorn Steakhouse.
We break bread with
Texas Roadhouse. The folks at LongHorn are just as hospitable when it comes to their customers, and that tradition dates back to the first few months that LongHorn's original Atlanta location on Peachtree Street was in business. In January of 1982, a freak snowstorm struck Atlanta and brought the city to a halt in what was dubbed Snow Jam 82, where the city was bombarded with sleet, hail, and 4 inches of snow over 3 days. The rare instance of such weather in the South made roadways so impassable that drivers and passengers simply abandoned their vehicles on the interstate to seek shelter in nearby stores, gas stations, and restaurants.
In deep, 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 deep snow.
Enter the legend of the OG LongHorn Steakhouse, which offered the stranded motorists discounted hot meals and $1 drink specials as long as the snow kept coming down. Today, the same spirit of hospitality continues at each of the chain's nearly 600 locations in the form of a fresh and warm multi-grain honey wheat loaf that greets each traveler who walks through the doors of a LongHorn. Unlike the honey cinnamon variety, theirs is served with traditional whipped butter for a classic combo.
Combo at the combo at the combo!
Before we reveal more, if it's your first time here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thanks. Now, back to the Battle of the Beef.
Beef! No, I got beef with that!
Steak season at Texas Roadhouse.
The meat is seasoned perfectly.
It wouldn't be a proper comparison of the two steakhouses if we didn't analyze the very thing that makes them what they are: beef, and lots of it. An estimated 30 billion pounds of beef is consumed in the USA every year, which averages out to almost 60 pounds per person. And the best way to enjoy all that meat is unquestionably in the form of a delicious steak. Texas Roadhouse goes the extra mile to deliver quality cuts and has a unique feature to make sure seeing is believing. They display fresh steaks in a chilled 34-degree glass case similar to your local butcher shop that lets customers see quality and freshness before it ever hits a hot grill.
You eat it raw?
Each wonderfully marbled cut is fresh and never frozen, with each location having its own in-house butcher that hand-cuts every steak served by the restaurant. Texas Roadhouse offers no less than 10 different hand-cut steaks to choose from, including the Texas geographically named Fort Worth ribeye and Dallas filet. 2 sides are included with the steak dinners, and there are a staggering 16 different options to choose from, with outside-the-box selections like Texas red chili and the grilled shrimp sidekick. If everything really is bigger in Texas, the menu options at their Roadhouse back up that claim.
Not huge the way you're huge. Admiration huge.
Sizzlin Steaks at LongHorn.
Coming at you on a sizzling Sunday afternoon.
Not to be outdone, LongHorn Steakhouse is at the top of its game, too. Around 50% of beef consumed in a day nationwide is eaten by just 12% of the total population, which tells us steakhouses like LongHorn might have some very loyal repeat customers. Named after the Texas Longhorn breed of beef cattle, the meat absolutely lives up to the name. Longhorn cattle are named literally since their horns can have tip-to-tip wingspans upwards of 10 feet wide. Unlike Texas Roadhouse, Longhorn steaks aren't presented to you in a glass display case. The taste does all the talking. The steaks here are also fresh and never frozen, but there are only 8 steak options as opposed to the 10 at Roadhouse.
More steak.
There are also Texas and Western named steaks here, like the Outlaw Ribeye and Renegade Sirloin, and a chicken fried steak named after one-time Texas Rangers pitcher Nolan Ryan. There are also fewer side dish options than Roadhouse, but still a dozen to choose from. The marquee meat here is the trademarked Longhorn Porterhouse cut, which combines both a filet and a bone-in strip steak into one generously thick 22-ounce Texas-sized serving. With a steak that big, we might have to throw a few Nolan Ryan fastballs to work it off.
Game, set, match, touchdown, home run.
Atmosphere and ambiance at LongHorn.
I got a great vibe. Your vibe.
Sure, your steaks, appetizers, and sides are what you really came to the steakhouse for, but your surroundings play a big part in how much you may or may not truly enjoy it. And for those who frequent both steakhouses, this is where the two differ the biggest. So, depending on your evening plans, these two opposites might just decide who wins the big beef battle. For those wanting a touch of class, LongHorn Steakhouse stays true to the sit-down dining atmosphere of many upscale steakhouses and restaurants. Designs are modern with sleek edges, darker colors, and low lighting.
If it looks like steak, I'm good.
Oh, it'll look like steak.
It keeps itself more suitable for conversational date nights, dining with business associates, or dinner with the in-laws. However, it's not at such a level where a black tie is required, or you need to memorize French dining etiquette, or worry about formal protocol with all those differently sized forks. It's still casual dining at this Texas-inspired eatery with Western aesthetics and cowboy themes. We'd still recommend wearing something nice, but maybe swap the cummerbund for a cowboy hat.
What the hell are you wearing?
Rowdy at the Roadhouse.
Let's get rowdy!
When it comes to more of a Wild West saloon-style experience, you might consider Texas Roadhouse, the aptly named noisy neighbor of LongHorn. If you've ever seen the classic Patrick Swayze movie Roadhouse, it gets a little rowdy. At Texas Roadhouse, meanwhile, it's not that crazy, but it's definitely more casual than the competition over at LongHorn. The bumpin' atmosphere includes danceable country music, neon signs, and a more casual feel. The average Texas Roadhouse location ranges between 6,500 square feet and 7,500 square feet and can seat just under 300 customers. So,
The more the merrier.
And it can get pretty merry. Birthday guests can sit in a stationary saddle while being serenaded with yeehaws from the staff and other customers. Unlike the quieter, smaller group setup at LongHorn, the Roadhouse might be more suited to parties that include kids and teenagers. There are 9 different options between their kids menu and single-serve Ranger Meals menu, as opposed to just 5 on the LongHorn Kids menu. So depending on who and how many are in your Western wagon train, you might prefer to bunk down at the Roadhouse.
Wagons, westward bound!
Wet your whistle at LongHorn.
Didn't know you like to get wet, though.
No matter the atmosphere, it can always be improved by a cool beverage. LongHorn Steakhouse provides plenty of options to quench your thirst with all ages selections featuring the usual range of teas, coffees, sodas, lemonades, milk, and fruit juices. If you're too cool for tap, LongHorn offers chilled Mountain Valley brand bottled spring water from the Ouachita Mountains. Southerners with an affinity for traditional iced sweet tea often rave about LongHorns, whose iced tea possesses strong flavor and plenty of sugary sweetness alongside a fresh lemon garnish.
Want beer? Like beer. Beer good.
For the adulting types at LongHorn wanting to add to the upscale experience, there's a wide variety of alcoholic beverages too. A standard selection of draft and bottled beers are featured, plus red and white wines. There are 5 signature cocktails, including a Texas tea, and 5 different handcrafted margaritas, including one LongHorn proudly refers to as the perfect margarita. Some folks say there's no such thing as perfect, but for a relaxing night out, the low-key vibes at LongHorn Steakhouse might be pretty close.
I am perfect.
Tasty teas at Texas Roadhouse.
I wants me that beer.
Roadhouse punches back in this rivalry, starting with a couple of Southern staples of its own. Texas Roadhouse has its own house-branded sweet tea and house-branded lemonade, and both are also available in half-gallon and 1-gallon jugs for takeout orders. Even though the Roadhouse doesn't have high-end bottled spring water like LongHorn, they carry standard Dasani purified bottled water that'll do the trick. And in the much livelier atmosphere, the Roadhouse doesn't shy away from alcohol. It offers more than a dozen beer selections, with draft beer served iced cold at exactly 36 degrees. There's Angry Orchard hard cider if you're averse to beer, and alcohol-free Heineken if you're the designated driver.
I'm not drinking and driving, I'm driving while I'm drinking.
You can also choose from many different wine varieties and a dozen different signature cocktails. The cocktail count is more than double the number over at LongHorn, and Western whistle wetters like Texas Peach Fuzz, the Jamaican Cowboy, and the Porch Rocker live up to the Southern theme. Some locations offer up to 15 different margarita options, including the Sangria and Hurricane margaritas, and one called the Legend that might rival the perfect margarita from LongHorn. No matter your preference, you'll stay hydrated.
I'm a good drinker.
Before we wrap up this rodeo, we've got an honorable mention that didn't quite make the cut, since it's less about each restaurant's products and more about how much you'll be paying after you're stuffed with steak. If you're watching the balance in your wallet, there really is no wrong answer when it comes to either one of our contestants. Both Texas Roadhouse and LongHorn Steakhouse fall in the middle of the pack as chain restaurants, not having the high-end cost of traditional steakhouses, but not being the cheapest cut on the market. When directly compared to each other, though, there is a slight edge in cost, as food items from LongHorn are typically $2 to $3 more expensive than the ones at Roadhouse. However, this is due to cost compensation for the attention to detail that might be just a touch higher at LongHorn, with most reviews suggesting they do, in the end, serve the better steaks. If you truly get what you pay for, it's just a matter of how many pesos you prefer to part ways with.
Preferably the one with the most zeros on it.
Whenever you want it.
But I want it now!
When it's time to crush those cravings, there's no time to waste. Exactly how patient of a person you are will go a long way toward deciding which of these two steakhouses reigns supreme. For all their tight similarities and drastic differences, the times of day they open and close the doors are what largely differentiates the two. Texas Roadhouse leans into the livelier evening crowd by only being open for dinner time hours, but the lack of lunch has several motivations behind it. On the business side, it reduces real estate expenses since restaurants don't need to be located in high-traffic areas for on-the-go customers on their short lunch breaks.
I will eat them anywhere!
On the personal side, it gives employees a more flexible work-life balance. Meanwhile, LongHorn fully leans into lunch and is open 6 days a week from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. for all your midday meat needs. The lunch specials include a half-pound cheeseburger and crispy buttermilk sandwich, and light lunch salad options of the 7-pepper sirloin salad and the grilled chicken with strawberry salad. So when it comes down to who wins the steakhouse standoff, it really might be just a matter of personal taste.
I'll eat both.
We've got more than steak on our menu, so stick around and tap on another great video. And hit that subscribe button and bell to join our notification squad.